Two. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's BobbyFi and Sheets again. We're going to be doing the NFL breakdown here on Draftkings. We're going to be doing some lineup building. We're going to go through the slate and try and figure out where we want to go for this week. Sheets, how you doing, man? Coming off a big win last night in basketball. You ready to carry it over to football?
Yeah, football's rough, man. It's a lot of information in football, and for me, a little more variance than basketball as far as the sport goes. But I'm hoping that you can give me some more insight above and beyond what I came up with, and hopefully we could give everybody that's watching at least some insight on where they could go with it. You know, short of just giving them plays, which again, hey, if I knew what the plays were, I probably wouldn't give them to you, right? So,
Right.
so hopefully we could just help work on everybody's process. And again, as we continue to build this, whatever you want to call this project out, again, you know, just keep with the feedback of what you'd like to see more of. Because I really want to go towards this idea of, you know, something above and beyond just, you know, who looks good and all that stuff, and trying to help you become really better players. And I know a lot of people, you know, say that, but I really would love to hear your input on what you would like to see. We are going to do some more community-based stuff with more chats and things like that. But again, the more input we get from you, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. All right, Sheets, let's get into it. Remember, give us the like on YouTube. I have to get that out of the way. I appreciate it if you guys do. But we're going to get into the first game here, which is Carolina, Atlanta. If you don't mind calling that part of the screen, let's do this game by game. I think that makes the most sense for right now. It's going to be interesting in this spot. I don't know how much interest I'm going to end up on this game because we have so many questionable marks on the receivers.
Tell me about that. What kind of questionables?
We don't know about Julio, we don't know about Ridley, and we don't know about Gage, to be honest. So assuming they all play, I have interest in all of them, especially Julio. Assuming if Julio doesn't play, I have interest more in Ridley and Gage. If they all don't play, well, we're just going to have to find somebody else, maybe Christian Blake or something. That's probably who it'll be. If any of those guys are out, I might take a shot on it at 3.3K. So remember, this is Atlanta. They throw the ball a lot. They like to use Ryan uses all of his receivers. So that's where I'd be looking. And then you could always go back to Hooper on the tight end side of things. But I really think most of my interest in this game is on the Carolina side of the ball. Even, you know, I guess just until we're in a wait and see mode with Atlanta, we have to wait and see what happens.
Well, let's go backwards, right? So for building NFL lineups, you know, I'm focusing in on like the Sunday Million, if you want to know the truth. You know, the big GPP, trying to win all the money. And the way I'm going to look at the slate is the way I look at all of them, is I'm going to try to build out, starting with wide receivers and pass catchers, right? And what kind of stacks I can build. And what I'm looking at is, you know, looking at projections, but ownership as a function of projections. Seeing if I can find kind of stacks, and then go to running backs as well, that are, you know, project well, which is great, but have upside and are kind of low owned. And with NFL specifically, it's often hard to find, like, if you look around, say, boy, this guy projects really well and nobody's on him. You know what I mean? Because everybody plays the NFL, so everybody looks at the same thing. So it's sometimes kind of hard, but, you know, it is still possible to find ways to go where maybe you will find some kind of lower owned guys. Like, for example, in this very first game, like, I'm looking at, you know, on the Atlanta side, again, there's a lot of unknowns as far as Julio and all those guys go. So nobody's really even showing up as being a good value. But if you wanted to go this way, like Carolina, I mean, obviously there's McCaffrey, who's going to show up as a good value. And, you know, I'm not going to argue with playing him. But if you were interested in playing the pass catchers instead or alongside of them, both DJ Moore and Samuel look to be pretty good. And they also look to have sub 10% ownership, at least as far as the run that I'm looking at right now. Now, they do have a new coach, Carolina, so I don't know how much that plays into what kind of game he's going to lay out there. But they're in a dome. They're in a situation where, you know, it's a little different. Last week, the guy was facing a lot of pressure, Kyle Allen, from the Redskins pass rush. And, you know, I don't know what kind of defense Atlanta's going to show up with nowadays. But if you did want to try a Kyle lower owned stack, it kind of works. Again, you know, it depends on what else you want to do. But at least on the projections I'm looking at, on layered with ownership, you could do something like this and run it back with whichever Atlanta guy's healthy. If you want to know the truth, I don't know who that's going to be. And that is one way that you could go.
Yeah, this is a potentially interesting game stack, but my interest lies mostly with the running side of this game. I think it's McCaffrey and I think it's Freeman on the other side. I think you're going to have high ownership on both. I think there's good reason why. I think that the price versus how much of the offense is going to run through them, which I think is going to be pretty heavy, even if everybody's healthy for Atlanta. We don't really have, we have Brian Hill backing them up. I think that this is going to be Freeman, they're gonna feature him. He's gonna be one of the better values of the day at running back. And as of right now,
tell me about that. Why is that all of a sudden? Like all of a sudden, the last 2 weeks, he's become very popular. And
well, it's because he was
gone. I don't know
if
he did anything last week, but he's like back. He's like Devonta Freeman again.
No, he wasn't playing.
No, I know that. No, I know.
When he wasn't playing, how was he gonna do anything?
No, I know that. But I'm saying, I'm asking if he did anything last week when he came back.
He had a really tough defense in New Orleans, again, as opposed to a team like Carolina, who's been getting gashed by different teams on the road. Like, look at what the Niners did to them and Tevin Coleman a few weeks back. This reminds me of that kind of it's that kind of a spot. You have a 5,400 running back with massive upside who's going to get a ton of work. He had 17 carries and 5 targets last week. If we expect something close to that, which I expect it might even be higher, I think that you're looking at a guy who should rate out as one of the better values on the slate.
Well, let me ask you this. So if he's 20%, and let's say you got 10% on, I don't know, Philip Lindsay, or James White, or Kenyon Drake, like, do you think Devonta Freeman is a much better play than all those guys?
I think he's a better play than those guys, but I have interest in all those guys.
Okay.
So that's sort of where I'm at. As of right now, just to give a little bit away, look, we're not done yet. It's Friday.
Sure.
But to give away a little bit of where I've got these guys owned, I like to do this when we do the NFL games. I want to have about 35% of McCaffrey. I want to be a little bit ahead of the field, assuming it's around 30, maybe even a little bit higher. I feel pretty safe and good with him. And I want to be like 25 to 30% of Devontae, probably just, again, the guy trying to be a little bit ahead of the field on. And then we've got to really wait and see on the Atlanta receivers. But I can say on the Carolina receivers, I will try to get some exposure to Curtis Samuel at 4,900. I think I'm looking at 15 to 20% of him. And I kind of want to go 15% or so on DJ Moore. I'd like to be ahead of the field on this. There's a sticker shock value, but this guy has been unbelievable and seems to have developed a good rapport with Allen. I think he's one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. He won me a ton of money last year and this year, by the way, so maybe I'm biased, but I love this guy as a off-the-board play at 7K. We have projected ownership at him around 10% now. I can't imagine that it stays that high. I think he's going to be like 5% at most, and I think you're going to get a guy who could end up having 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of the guys that was popping for me as kind of like, again, that cross between decent projections and low ownership. So I'm definitely going to keep him in my short list. Let's put it that way. Yeah,
but definitely not my favorite game to say. I do think you can build a few Ryan with whoever Atlanta receivers are stacks if you want to. But I'm fine with always stacking against Atlanta. I just don't really want to play Kyle Allen on this slate. Even though I don't mind the pass catchers, I just don't think he's the quarterback who's going to win me this slate.
Okay.
All right, let's move it on over.
Moving ahead to the next one I have is Baltimore Buffalo. And again, I'm not looking at this from a cash perspective. I'm just looking at it from a GPP. So I don't really have a lot of interest in Lamar Jackson, just because, again, I know you could play him naked and there's ways you could go. Like you could pair him with Marquise Brown if you wanted. He's not really projecting that great, and you could pair him with $5,600 Mark Andrews if you want. But despite the fact that Lamar Jackson is completely matchup proof and is just just a nut quarterback the whole season, I just don't see in a GPP me kind of going this way. I mean, I would look, if I was going to do anything, maybe, as scary this is, would be maybe on the Buffalo side. I mean, against the quote tough Ravens defense. I guess they're tough, but boy, can you get away with Josh Allen and John Brown again? I don't know, maybe. But I don't know if I'm going to really. This game is going to be one of my main games to look at. But if you wanted to, I mean, you could do it. You could go 1% owned, Allen, John Brown, Cole Beasley double stack, run it back with Marquise Brown or Mark Andrews, and then play whoever you want, and hope you get lucky. I don't know if I'm going to do that, though.
Yeah, that's not doesn't sound like me either.
Okay.
For this game, I do have interest in Lamar. I think he's truly broken the game. They could score 17 points, and he probably still is going to get there. Like he is a absolute wrecking crew. I watched this guy play live on Monday Night Football, and I had to explain to my daughter this was her first football game she's ever gone to live, and just it's not this easy. But he makes it that easy. So I will take him, and I will stack him with anybody or leave or take him naked. But what I really like in this matchup though is I have to have some Brown tight end, some Brown with Lamar stacks. John Brown has been one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL, especially when Baltimore needs him. Like he struggled in that game against Dallas, but they even ran the trick play and had him throw a touchdown.
Yep.
If you look at it, he's just been a very consistent receiver and do some touchdown regression, which started to pay off the last few weeks before the Thursday game. They've had some time off here. I really like he's gonna get plenty of work. He's 6.1, which is a little bit high. No ownership on either of these guys who are both home run threats. I play Marquise Brown because I want to play Lamar and also because he's he can get it all in one play. Same thing is true with John Brown, but John Brown actually has become a consistent receiver where he's going to catch the ball, 6 to 8 times probably for like 70 yards in this game. And then, there's obviously a ton of upside on that. So I like that little stack. Otherwise, I'm really not paying that much attention to this game. I don't want to play Singletary. I don't even want to play Andrews, to be honest with you. So I'm pretty much just going to play that combination a little bit and then move on.
All right. Cincinnati, Cleveland. I mean, this is, let me tell you something. The NFL is just so perfect for daily fantasy sports because, especially for the GPPs for the millions, I'm telling you, every single week I could come up with these lineups that I swear are going to win the $1 million. They're like, this is such a great lineup. It's as I mentioned this last week, it's the exact opposite of baseball. Every baseball lineup I put together, I think has no chance to win. And every single football lineup I put together, I'm like, boy, this is so cool. Especially when, God forbid, you start getting used to this idea of stacking and running it back, being able to tell these stories. I mean, you go to something as stupid as the Cincinnati-Cleveland game, you can have just as much fun, to put it mildly, as you want, assuming these guys are all in, right? Yeah. For Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, you could play both these guys and run it back with forget Tyler Boyd, or you could certainly do it. You could run it back with Auden Tate and then just completely just being, like 1%, I would say 1% ownership because Beckham, Landry, and Tate are, I see Beckham and Landry are probably going to have some ownership. But what if you wanted to do something even more ridiculous? And look, Andy Dalton was kind of chalky last week. Maybe nobody plays him this week. And instead of doing this, you end up throwing out Beckham, and then you do a double stack on this side with Boyd, and then you can fill in the rest of your lineup that way. You could totally tell this story that, holy crap, I mean, this could actually happen for $1 million. So and then I go back and I look at the projections, and I actually see Tate and Boyd don't look that bad, actually. So I'll take a shot. And Landry, Landry, they're still showing his lower ownership than Beckham. I think people have to kind of come to the realization one of these days that maybe Landry's better. I don't know. He's higher. He's a higher salary, but he's projecting higher, and he's going to be half the ownership of Beckham. Maybe do something like this. I don't know how many lineups I'm going to have to do to play this, but I don't know, maybe one. So what do you think of this game?
So for me, this is a perfect 5 to 10% game. Like I'll play each quarterback 5 to 10% and play them with either, Boyd, a combination of Boyd, Tate, Landry, and Beckham. But I do have priority plays in this game specifically, and that's Beckham. I don't care about. I just think the upside is through the roof, and I still like him better than Landry. The price is it makes it really hard not to have a lot of interest in him, and people have sort of got fed up to where he's not like 30% owned at this price anymore. So it's a great matchup, obviously. I also think that you could look at like Nick Chubb. I think this is a great spot. I just am a little bit worried about the shares, but so is everybody else. I still think you could end up with one of those monster games. So even at 8K, I think I want to be ahead of the field on Chubb, maybe around 15% or so. And then with Landry, I probably will be right with the field, probably wherever it is, maybe even a little bit less, to be honest. I'll be above the field heavily on Beckham, and probably slightly above the field on Mixon, but definitely ahead of the field on Boyd.
So likewise, if I were going to build something like this, I'd have to check my ownership. And if in fact I was getting, again, I'm not saying this is the case, but let's say I was going to get a low-owned, Cleveland-Cincinnati thing, then I would be a little more comfortable with the, I don't want to say safer, but the chalkier Devonta Freeman play. You know what I mean? Rather than having to go to somebody else. Let's put it that way. And I would be, so again, check your ownerships. You don't have to go off the board with every position, right? But make sure that you mix your chalk with your lower popularity players.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, and then I mean, this we're gonna find there's a lot of good games on this slate, so it's kind of hard to just. That's why you don't want to just load up on these some of these early ones we talked about.
Well, first of all, this next game is just a lot because we're definitely going to lock in Jimmy Graham and Aaron Rodgers naked with no bring back, because that's what seems to work.
Hey, get out of here. 5th in the millionaire maker. Well, first of all, you don't need to bring back here. You could play. I mean, I actually have a lineup in some of my builds already with just Rodgers and not with Graham though. I have Rodgers with Adams with no bring back. But I don't mind bringing back.
So let me look at this game. So on the Green Bay side, he's they didn't really adjust. Well, they adjusted the price a little bit, but Devontae Adams again is showing to be a good value. He is showing to be 20% owned in a game that I don't know. I think it has downside as far as game script goes. Let's put it that way. So again, like, am I going to project blowouts? No, but at 20% ownership, maybe I'll think about it. But then again, I mean, how are they going to get 28 points if Rodgers is not going to throw it to Adams at some point? You know what I mean? He doesn't trust anybody else on the team to throw the ball to. So I also don't think it becomes a blowout without Devontae Adams probably scoring at least a touchdown or two. So Devontae Adams at 20%. I don't know if I'm going to do it just because I don't like 20% wide receivers unless I have a really good reason. Maybe this is good enough. And the natural thing to think about then is, well, if you don't like that, what do you do on the running side if you want to play Green Bay running backs? And, both these guys, Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, are projecting similarly. And it's that question. I mean, who's the lead back? Who do they like more? Obviously they prefer Aaron Jones, but every once in a while they like Jamal Williams too. I have no problem with, at 4,800 trying Jamal Williams. But again, I think if you just go up a little bit, you find a little safe, maybe some safer options. Then again, maybe you don't want a safer option. Maybe you want a guy with a Q tag who's got some more upside. I don't know. But Aaron Jones at 6,700 looks to be kind of like an okay running back as far as I'm concerned. He'll probably make my player pool. But I as we get to other parts of the slate, I think that I'm going to end up going to more of those 5,100, those cheaper running backs than going to the Aaron Jones guys. But as far as the as projections goes, he looks to be okay. And on the Washington side, I'll get your opinion on whether you want to go back to the main man, Darius Geis. He's not looking so great for me, but I'd ask you about that. And on the Washington receivers, if you want to play for them coming from behind or whatever, Terry McLaurin's obviously the top choice. He's projects okay, showing 4% ownership at 5,100. I don't know what he's got to do to eclipse a 4% ownership. Probably not that much, so I wouldn't mind going with him. I don't know about Kelvin Harmon. You have to talk to me about him. And the other guy showing up here maybe a little bit is this Steven Sims, who I literally have never heard of. So
let's not get. This is not the slate to try and get cute. I don't think.
Well, that's why I have you.
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, I can understand if Kelvin Harmon, fine, but no way. I'm going to play Darius Geis a tiny bit if I'm running back, and I'm going to play Terry McLaurin. McLaurin's really cheap. I actually think he's a logical play. I think Jamal Williams is where I would decide if I was going to pick between these backs just because of the price, but I don't really know that I want to be above the field on them. Probably that means around 5 to 10%, sort of where I'm looking. I'll probably be with the field on Devontae Adams and maybe right a little bit ahead of the field on Aaron Rodgers. That's pretty much where I stand on this game.
Okay, so here we go. Moving on.
So
running back. I'm looking at the running backs as far as projected ownerships on one of the sites.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the second or third highest projected running back at 18% is Patrick Laird at 4,100. Okay.
Is that the game we're on?
What's that? Is
that the game we're on?
No.
Oh, just general. Oh, okay.
And we'll get to whether he's a good player or not. And then I'll look, and I'm going to see Duke Johnson at 3,900 at 3% ownership. coming off a game where they featured him in the running game and the passing game. Now, I know Carlos Hyde's usually the running guy, and I am going to have, I don't know, maybe I'm just dumb, but he projects very similarly. I know what I saw. I think he's got momentum as far as usage goes, let's put it that way. And at the same price, at 1/6 of the ownership, if that's the case, I'm going to try it. The other thing that I found in this game is that the wide receivers for both these guys, Will Fuller projects to be less than 10% owned and is a good value. DeAndre Hopkins, he's 16% or 15% owned, but he projects to be a good value. And Cortland Sutton, who is just awesome, he's also projected to be a decent value and only at 5%. So I am going to try this game as one of my, again, I'm probably going to end up picking 4 or 5 games to kind of just go after. And I know Denver's got the, rookie quarterback, whatever it is. I could play Noah Fant as a decent tight end in here. This particular lineup doesn't have Hopkins in it, whatever. This one's got Duke Johnson and Fuller, both passing in guys. You want to play the narrative. I don't know. Denver, they still have that guy that shadows, Chris Harris, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he shuts down or attempts to shut down at least. It's not possible. DeAndre Hopkins. Then it's a Fuller game, and then you can get Duke Johnson, run it back with these Denver guys, and have some fun. That was my first look at it. So it's one of my first games I was looking at. So tell me what you think.
Yeah, I'm a little less interested than you are. I like the individual plays of Fuller, Lindsey. I don't mind Hopkins actually at all. He's one of the guys I actually have in about 20%, and just because the price is so low for him. But I Fuller, Lindsey, I like Hopkins, and I like taking shots on Cortland Sutton. Like, this guy just keeps scoring. Let's just keep playing him, and I'll take a shot or two on Noah Fant. And I don't mind your call on Duke Johnson. I would, however, warn you that you're playing a dangerous game, because I think Houston's one of the better defenses on the board this week. And I think that I worry about the bringing it back side of Denver and their ability against Houston. But we've seen also Houston's defense look shaky at times and look good at times. I don't know, man. It's not the stack for me that I love so much, but I do like the individual plays that I mentioned. I just have a little bit of more respect for both defenses and less respect for the Denver offense. So that's why I don't feel as interested. Also, I feel like Hopkins is actually going to be a pretty popular play. So I'm just sort of looking at different things personally. So that's just sort of where I landed.
Okay.
And the Duke Johnson, that's just the game flow. Like, if they're playing from ahead, it's going to be a very different story. When they're in like a must-win type situation against, New England, and they're trying to move the ball, you're going to be more likely to see him in those spots, I think, than when they're playing from ahead. But you still could see him when they're playing from ahead. So I'm not going to say that for sure. I think he's worth speculating on for sure.
Okay. Moving on to, all right, here's another annoying one. Detroit, Minnesota. I want to whine for 2 seconds. I don't play really season-long fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in one league for like $200. We barely pay attention. And we made the playoffs. And our 2 wide receivers are Adam Thielen and Julio Jones.
Yikes.
We could have neither of them playing this week in the first round of the playoffs. So
I don't think Thielen is going to play.
Yeah, I know. What can I tell you? But, it is what it is. So this is my thoughts on this game. First of all, if Thielen, I'm presuming, I guess Thielen is out, right? On the one hand, this looks to be kind of a game where they want to just jam it down their throat with Dalvin Cook. Yet on the other hand, Dalvin Cook himself is freaking $10 million. You know what I mean? Like,
and banged up.
Dalvin Cook is banged, and he's like 9,500, and I don't know if I can do it. What you could do is you could just play the moto play, and okay, so if what's his name is out, well then let's just play Stephon Diggs, right? He's like obviously the top option, so let's just play Stephon Diggs, and the good thing about it, or the bad thing about it, is who you want to play on the Detroit side as far as the wide receivers go. Well, you want to play one of these guys or whatever. I actually like, again, just from whatever, I just think it's more of a Marvin Jones type idea for me. at 5,400 than Galladay, although I always love playing Galladay. You could do it. I mean, you want to play Stephon Diggs with Marvin Jones or Stephon Diggs with Galladay. I don't know if I just can't see this being a game where Minnesota wants to just really open up the playbook and just throw it a zillion times. So I don't think it's going to be a game where I would go to stack, but I definitely see routes where I would want like Diggs with one of those Detroit guys. I don't know if I'm going to go the off the board Minnesota receivers like the Olabisi Johnson or even Laquan Treadwell or guys like that, or Irv Smith, although maybe you want to do that. I don't know. This game is very, very confusing to me.
Yes, I think that what you do in this game is I actually think that like at no ownership, even banged up, I'm going to play some shots at Dalvin Cook. Like he's going to have literally zero ownership this week. And all he has to do is outscore one player, Christian McCaffrey. So there you go. That alone, you're already differentiating. Imagine if you just left the Niners.
You sure about that? He's got to outscore. He's going to outscore.
He's got to outscore basically everybody. But the point is that you know what I'm saying. Like,
no, he's got to outscore Alvin Kamara too. We'll talk about him soon.
We'll talk about him in a little bit. Yeah. All right. Anyway, but I like the Cook off the board play. I really like Thielen. I like Diggs whether Thielen plays or not. I don't really care. I think that we've seen Diggs plays over and over again against Detroit from much worse offensive players and plays and teams than this. So I will take shots on that Olabisi Johnson, and assuming that Thielen is out. If he's not, I'm just going to play a little bit of Diggs. I have more interest in Galladay, but I don't really have a ton of interest in the receivers. I think my highest level of ownership in this game will be Diggs, maybe then Cook actually, Diggs, then the defense, the Minnesota defense. I understand that you're paying a lot for him, but I think that's like a spot where I actually don't mind taking a shot because they could absolutely demolish. And it's hard to bet on defensive touchdowns, but I could see them just getting all over this guy and just destroying them. So that's sort of where I'm at on this game.
All right. San Francisco, New Orleans, another kind of battleground type game between philosophies of whether the San Francisco defense overcomes the Saints Coors Field offense as far as what trumps.
But they haven't been that in a long time.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, it's a philosophical battleground.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I guess the first thing I would do is I would see what these things look like, right? So I threw all these guys out there in case you wanted to stack this game. I mean, all these guys are actually showing as pretty good values between Kamara and Thomas and Cook. Like if you wanted to go this route, the bringbacks from San Francisco, if you wanted to play this, are a little easier nowadays, I guess. Since they got Sanders, so you could play. You could do whatever you want. I mean, you could play Breeze a quarterback. If you don't want to do that, you could play Garoppolo a quarterback and play that and just do different combinations of these receivers or whatever. I happen to think that all these guys are good plays. I wouldn't play Kittle and Cook together. I'm just throwing them in here to show you, like, which guys are in play.
I have zero problem with Kittle and Cook together. I actually have been making some double tight ends. Yeah.
So again, it's going to depend in some sense on ownership. Like, I will say this, like, if you can actually get, you're just not going to. I was about to say, if you can get like Michael Thomas at low ownership, you kind of have to do it, even if they're playing the freaking, 86 Bears. You know what I mean? But I don't think 11% is working. He's always 20%, right?
Yeah, he's always going to, yeah.
He's just always going to be high owned. And Sanford and what's his name? And even Kamara, what are they showing him as ownership? Okay, he's 18%. That I actually think that Thomas is probably going to be higher owned than Kamara. I don't know, but they're both going to get ownership. I don't know what you're gaining really by playing those two guys, except for the fact that that they're good plays. I don't know if you're getting a lot of leverage, a lot of low owned leverage playing those guys.
No.
So I have no problem playing them. Maybe the sneaky way to play, if you want to play this game, is just go the opposite and just play Garoppolo, and just I don't know. The last time Saints gave up a whole bunch of touchdowns either, though.
Yeah, this is not on this slate. I think we've got to stop talking about quarterbacks in this game. I think it's a terrible mistake. Like, I think that you can play because he'll be unowned and because he's costs less than he'll ever cost. Where he's like, you can probably play like 5%, maybe 3%. Like just dabble, throw him into one lineup. But you do not want to be getting into this kind of game stack. These are the best. These are two of the best, probably 3 or 4 defenses in football, in my opinion, and including the best with the Niners. So I like both defenses in this game. I'm worried that Drew Brees might be a little bit broken. I love the Niners. I love the Niners defense for upside. I don't really want to touch too much else in this game except for Kamara. I do want Kamara and I want Kittle above the field. Kamara will probably be with the field. Kittle, I'll be well above the field. I just think that a player that good at this price, like with finally going to have lower ownership than he should, like I'm just going to take a shot there on the big players showing up. Michael Thomas, same thing, probably be with the field. And then, Jared Cook is another guy who I think that makes some sense. So as a low-owned tight end option, sure, but like I don't want to play a bunch of these guys together. Mostly it's the defenses for me in this game with some Kamara, Kittle, Thomas, and Cook.
What ownership do you think the Saints D is going to be? Yeah, because that to me is very interesting.
How about the Niners D?
Yeah, again, you're better than me. You know what I mean? Like, if they project really, really well, I'll do it. But I mean, I don't know, but it's tough. I guess that's why no one's going to play them. You know what I mean? I can't imagine the last time.
Not built on anything real, like you know what I mean? Like
I got you.
Yeah.
I wonder if you looked and said when the last time an opposing defense in New Orleans ever won anybody.
It was. I know that it happened twice last year because they had
really?
two monster turnover games. Yeah, but anyway, we'll see.
Could be. All right. Miami Jets. You're going to hear, I would bet, a lot of talk about this game. And this happens all the time. I mean, you get these, I won't say crappy games, but you get these games with bad teams, which also means bad defenses, that garner more ownership than you would think. And I think this is going to be one of those games. I'm going to look at the ownership now, but again, it's a really easy story to tell. You know what I mean? You got two freaking guys who are become total slingers between Darnold and Fitzpatrick going right against each other in a game where there's no pressure. You know what I mean? They're just gonna be you would think they'd be flying all over the field. And now I'm looking and I'm seeing Devontae Parker at 15% and Jamison Crowder at 10%. The other guys like Robbie Anderson 7, Demaryius Thomas 4. I mean, I guess you could try this game, and I'll probably have some of it. You want to know the truth? What I might be interested in doing, and again, this is probably asking for trouble, but I might give one more shot to Le'Veon Bell. Although even him he's 13.
He's out. He might be out.
Oh, what?
We don't know if he's out yet.
Le'Veon Bell might be out.
Yeah.
So you're telling me it's going to be like Bilal Powell chalk week?
I read. I don't even know if it'll be that chalky necessarily, but it might be.
Or Ty Montgomery.
We don't have official news yet, so let's hold off on that one.
Oh my God.
So,
one thing I'm not. I mean, I don't know. You got to tell me about this whole Patrick Laird business. I mean, I missed the whole nonsense a couple of weeks ago when he was basically a joke, and now he's actually like a play.
Well, they don't have anybody else to go. Like.
Yeah, I guess. So okay. So he's I'll tell you, he's projecting to be a really, really good play. He's like you said, he's the only option, and he's certainly going to be using him in the passing game. And Fitzpatrick likes to pass the ball. So, he's certainly a good play, whether I want to play him at 18% compared to some other guys. I mean, I wouldn't play him in otherwise chalky lineups, but, in off-the-board type lineups, I have no problem not fighting the projections and playing him.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be ahead of the field on Laird. I really like this game. I really like Darnold to Crowder especially. I like Robbie Anderson for big play upside. I like running it back with any of the receivers, and I actually think Allen Hurns is the one who goes overlooked this week at 4,100. I like him. I really think there's all kinds of stacks of this game I'm going to have, and I'm going to be ahead of the field on pretty much everyone in this game.
Well, the good news also about the Patrick Laird is aside from the lock Duke Johnson, right? There are too many other places you can go in that price range, I guess. Unless you wanted to play Sean McCoy, we'll get to him later, I guess. But I just if you play McCaffrey, I guess he's going to have to be 20% owned. I guess there's a reason why. Also, I mean, he is the lead back in a game that could be close, and they're not the favorite, right? So if anything, they'll be coming from behind and getting dump offs also. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with it for sure.
Yeah, I really like that game. I think it's kind of an interesting one. And I like this next one, too, that we're about to talk about.
Ooh, all right. So Indianapolis at Tampa. Yeah, so the normal guys, right? So let me pull up the game first.
Yeah, it's
So
a
I'm not really see. Okay, so as far as projection all stuff, I do see Evans and Godwin both. Wow, I mean they both look to be pretty good. They rate pretty well, and they are both showing to be less than 10% owned. I don't know if that's humanly possible.
I don't either.
For them both to be under 10%. And as a matter of fact, I think the way it works is that they're going to be the same ownership regardless of where they are, because people are now into this whole idea that I don't know which one they're going to play, right? They go back and forth, and they're like the exact same price. So I think they're going to be. I think the only thing that's going to keep their ownership from being that high is because they're going to take from each other. You know what I mean? I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know if you can afford. Well, I mean, you certainly could, but let's just see what it looks like. So
no, you can do it easily.
Okay. So yeah, so you could certainly do it. So if you wanted to, you could play Evans and Godwin and run it back with your MVP, right? With Pascal, right? If you didn't want to go the Jack Doyle route,
you could play Doyle also, yeah.
And play Doyle also,
or Johnson also at running back. I'm sorry, not Johnson. Excuse me, Mack at running back.
Oh, he's back, right?
Yeah. So I mean, but it's just there's a lot of ways you can go with this spot that I think are kind of interesting, and I really like the. It's funny, I don't find myself with the quarterbacks as much, even though I like Jameis always. But I do like the pass catchers. I love Pascal. I love Doyle. I love Evans and I love Godwin, but I don't think I'm in the mood to play Evans and Godwin together. I also like going back to Ronald Jones, who crushed everyone's soul last week except for me. And it's the one week I didn't play him, and I'm always heavy on him, as you know. Now it's a week that I want to go back to him and hope he doesn't get vultured for 2 touchdowns this time. So I like all those pieces of this game, another game that I'm going to be ahead of the field on.
Well, there's also, by the way, there's a pivot off of Laird if you want, unless you want to play them both.
Yeah, that's fine. You could do it both ways. I actually like that.
Okay. Oh my God, talk about broken dreams. Chargers at Jacksonville. Yeah. Both these teams expected to be pretty decent this year. But what in the hell happened to these freaking teams? All right.
I'm not going to say no to everyone, but I'm going to say this is a really stay away spot for almost everyone in this game.
Even Fournette?
Fournette's the guy. The only guys who are interesting, I was going to say, are the running game to me. Potentially Fournette, but even that I don't love at his price. I think I'm leaning playing on one of Eckler or Gordon a lot of places. I really like that, but I'm worried about the season being over, and otherwise I'd be even higher on Melvin Gordon. These season over games, you never know how they go, who plays. Like, yes, Mike Williams makes sense, and Mike Williams and Melvin Gordon stand out to me in this game. I don't realistically know that I'm going to end up with anyone else. Shark, Westbrook. I just don't feel good about it. I might change my mind by Sunday, but for right now, I almost want to skip this game.
I also still think that Phillip Rivers has benching risk, so I wouldn't.
I just don't think you want to mess with this game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So Tennessee, Oakland. This could be this. Oh wow, is this going to be the sneaky one? So this is what's happening. So Ryan Tannehill is getting a lot of press as a good play this week. So in the one of the later night. Oh, actually, I skipped ahead if you don't mind.
No.
So I went to the Tennessee Oakland game first.
Yeah.
I think that you could play Oakland guys in this game. I think that you could play Derek Carr. I think you could play Waller would be my next guy. I don't know how banged up Josh Jacobs is, but I would play him. I might even play if you want to leverage off of if there's any real Tannehill ownership. I could play the Oakland defense in this spot also. I'm not too into the Tennessee side. You can talk to me about Derrick Henry. I wasn't going to play much of the Tannehill to Shark and not Shark, you know what I mean, the A.J. Brown and that passing game. But you could try to talk me into it. The only guys I was looking at in this game was probably Derrick Henry as a running back, and I was going to play Oakland guys more than the Tennessee guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and talk you into either quarterback. I don't like either quarterback that much. I do think I'll play maybe like 1 or 2 shares of Tannehill. Mostly, it's hard because I don't really like anybody that I'm pairing him with. I think Jonnu Smith would be the person I like the most, and that doesn't feel good. Corey Davis is a wild card play. Isn't the worst idea in the world. Derrick Henry, people may not play him as much because of the price, but and they are more of a pass funnel defense, but like it's still, I think he's firmly in play. Jacobs is in play. Tyrell Williams, Waller, all solid. I just found my builds for some reason avoiding them a little bit more than I feel like maybe some other people will. I'm mostly going to stick with the Derrick Henry, maybe a little bit of Tyrell and a little bit of Waller. I don't think I'm going to go the Jacobs route yet, but I'm still debating.
Okay.
Anybody for you?
No.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So Pitt, Arizona, this game kind of intrigues me a little bit. So people played the Rams. Well, I know I did. The Rams Arizona game last week, and a lot of people played Kyler Murray. And here's my analysis of Arizona and Kyler Murray this year, and this whole offense. They never stop. Okay, like if they're down 30 or down 25 or down whatever, they will keep doing onside kicks. They will keep going for it. They will not take the guys off the field. And in a game like this, where Pittsburgh certainly has a better defense, right? Pittsburgh's defense is great, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I would not worry. I have a feeling I'm going to try some Arizona here. Okay, this coach is out of his freaking mind. He's going to keep on trying with this team to figure out how to play his style, whatever that's going to be. I know he went back to playing a little slower over the last couple of weeks or whatever. But I think that Kirk, who not busted everybody, but Kirk, who sucked last week, I think he's in play. I think that Kenyon Drake, as a pivot off of those other 5K guys, is in play. And I would totally play some Arizona on this side. I don't know who else I would play. I don't know if I would go with Larry Fitz, but I'm totally into Kyler Murray against even, what's going to be a tough Pittsburgh defense. And the Pittsburgh side is kind of weird. There are 2 guys you have to talk me off of. One of them, I mean, he's showing to be low ownership and a pretty good freaking price and really cheap is Deontay Johnson from the Pittsburgh side.
Yeah, I can't talk you off of him.
Okay, and the one other guy is, okay, so James Conner is ruled out, and I suppose people are going to play Benny Snow or whatever, but why do I not want to play Jalen Samuels in a game like this? I don't know what Pittsburgh really intends on doing, but at 0.2% ownership or whatever it is, can't this be a game where the people do score and Samuels gets used out of the backfield? I don't know. I really haven't followed.
I think that's a sharp take, actually. I think Jalen Samuels is a good wild card GPP play. I wouldn't get crazy with him, but I absolutely agree that if they need to move the ball, that they're going to probably rely on him in more of those situations than Benny Snell, especially catching passes out of the backfield, where he should have a pretty high ceiling in terms of number of targets. So I really like that call, actually, with Samuels. And I love Johnson, but I don't think I'm going to be playing the quarterbacks in this game. I just think that's the route I want to go with Christian Kirk. I don't really want to touch anything else in this game. Except for I do have interest in Vance McDonald. Obviously, I know the tight ends against Arizona. It's almost becoming like a joke, but it's not. It's a joke for a reason. They're getting lit up every week. So let's just keep playing tight ends against them.
Well, I will tell you, by the way, that the flow chart stuff, it doesn't really get the ownership. It only gets the ownership if the projections support it. It's like the narrative stuff we discussed the other day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So don't say, well, I don't want to play it because of the flow chart.
No, I know.
Obvious, you know what I mean? It might not be that highly owned if you want to.
He won't be. No, I don't think he's going to be that highly owned. It's just funny because like everybody almost makes fun of people for suggesting it these days. It's like I don't know. It's a funny thing in DFS.
Let me just throw him in here just to see what something stupid like this looks like. All right. So what do we just have the one game left?
Yep.
Yeah. So save this one for last. And this is kind of a weird game. You know what I mean? When you projected at the beginning of the year, you know what I mean? Like, okay, this is the game everybody's waiting for. This is going to be,
58 total.
50, yeah, exactly. 58 total. Where did this go? Where did it go on my thing? And next thing you know, you have all this rumor that what's his name is washed. You know what I mean? That Brady can't do anything anymore. and you don't know what to do. So here's my thoughts on the Kansas City New England game. I guess you could script this wherever you want, but if this does, I want to say blow up and have a really high total, you're certainly going to want James White in this, and that's what happened in the last game when Brady completely turned to James White when they fell behind, and it was, you know what I mean? It was just all day long for James White, especially in the second half. And the other guy from the New England side is Julian Edelman. You want to know the truth? Like, these two guys just really garner like so much of Brady's attention that I think for the first time in a long time, I mean, you really can know where these targets are going. And you could play Jacoby Myers and guys like that, I guess, but I would really stick to the James Whites and the Edelmans. Now, I do also think that they're going to try. Now, if you want to play flow chart, you want to play game script. If you think that it's, he's going to be 3% owned, if you want to try Sony Michel, right, against a Kansas City defense, which has given up like pretty decent rushing yardage, I do promise you this, that if they can get the running game going, they will just continue to pound it, okay? So maybe if Sony Michel turns out to be really, really low owned, maybe you could try that. On the Kansas City side, I'm not going to kind of talk you up anybody. Now, again, there was supposedly some guy who was going to be kind of like Darwin Thompson or somebody like that, who was going to get some ownership.
Talking about the Chiefs side, on the Chiefs side, yeah.
On the Chiefs side, I don't know about that, but I would try some LaShawn McCoy maybe as an off the board type play in this game. But aside from that, it would be kind of the normal KC guys. I don't know if I would stack against New England pretty much ever. You want to know the truth? But Mahomes, you'd say he's matchup proof and all that stuff. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but if you wanted to, I mean, go ahead and stack Mahomes with Hill and Kelsey or whatever it is. But I would be more inclined to maybe fade this whole thing and just go with a Michel running game script. But I'd be really curious to know what you thought of this game.
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating game. I actually am on the Mahomes, and I'm playing some Brady also with Edelman and White. I love the Edelman-White combo. The thing that worries me about White is the ownership, I think, is going to sway towards him. I think him and Freeman end up in the same range of ownership. And to have a guy who may not even get a point which is possible. He did it 2 weeks ago, is a little bit scary. But if they need him, that little game script makes a lot of sense to me. And I like the idea of running it back with LaShawn McCoy on the other side, potentially, and Kelsey or Sammy Watkins in case they try and take out Tyreek Hill or Kelsey. I don't know which one they try to take out, to be honest with you. That's what I'm struggling with. But I will be, again, ahead of the field on these guys in this game more than I'm going to be behind it, because I don't think the ownership is going to be crazy, and I could see it being like a very, very narrow group of people who end up having the production. I actually think LaShawn McCoy might be one of those. So he might be one of those pivots where I end up maybe making a stand in the Millionaire Maker, but maybe not the high-end small field tournament, but maybe the Millionaire Maker, I take a shot and just play him like 20% at 4.4K and see if he can break the slate. Because there's that kind of a potential in this matchup for the running game for KC. I just don't know who it's going to be. And I would rather play McCoy than Darwin Thompson.
So with respect, I guess, to the whole slate, again,
yeah,
it's like I'm just, and again, everybody struggles with this whole thing. I'm just not sure where my stands are going to be versus where my randomness, is going to take me. Like, I know last week I was very, very confident with the way I was going to go. I was going McCaffrey. I was going with a certain, I just knew exactly what I was doing. And here I really have to, again, monitor ownership and see which games really just kind of fall off the radar, because I think there's a lot of kind of close-ish type ideas here. And I think it's a very, very difficult slate. The one thing I will say, this is kind of the way I think, that the more I think about this New England game, the more I think of doing exactly what I said in a couple of lineups is, the whole idea of like, what would my son say? He didn't know anything about anything. Boy, oh boy, this is going to be a real fast-paced game. New England, Kansas City. I'm going to go with the most popular targets, White and Edelman, and use the Kansas City guys also. Boy, if you just get freaking Michel going, you know what I mean? Like, you get a Michel 150-yard game and 2 touchdowns and fade all those other guys. I mean, that's going to be freaking insane. You know what I mean? Now, again, maybe that's overthinking it. Maybe that's going too far off the board, and that's that's kind of what makes this fun, is that struggle between deviating too much from what you think is most likely to happen just in the name of being contrarian, you know? So
Right.
what I would do, again, if I were you guys and myself, is, again, just look at your projections, look at, your content, look at whatever, and then make a nice combination of low-owned stuff with high-owned stuff. Because once you get too far off the board, you're just asking for it. You're just asking for 130 points, or not, excuse me, about 80 points in your lineup. And what will end up happening is you'll get two low-owned guys that go off, right, in your lineup, but then it won't matter because the rest of your lineup just blew up. You know what I mean? All you need is one or two, like you demonstrate over years of winning, right, is just one or two real well-thought-out pivots to make it all work.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I just thought real quickly to close this out, I want to just read over some where I have some players on this slate, as I like to do on these shows. I won't give you the exact percentages, but you can think these guys are the 30+% guys that I currently have in my lineup. And again, it's still gonna depend on some injury information, especially those Atlanta receivers, till I make my final decisions. But right now, I've got Christian McCaffrey, Zach Pascal, Mike Evans, Devontae Freeman, Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson, Jamison Crowder, and Odell Beckham as my highest owned players, with Laird, Adams, Edelman, James White just behind, and Melvin Gordon. Oh, and Jack Doyle. Sorry, those guys are all just in that 30-ish% range.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and the one other guy I want to mention, I got to get more ownership on, is George Kittle. I just think that you could see a slate breaking type of performance, and in these must-win games, you tend to rely on your best player, especially on the road. So I could see Kittle getting a little bit of action this weekend.
All right. Hopefully that if you're deep in something, you don't have to sweat 2-point conversions and 2-point blocks and defensive touchdowns and all that kind of stuff. But if you are the type to play the millionaire maker, man, you're playing for, to beat up millions and hundreds of thousands of people. Just don't get all upset about bad beats. It's just, that's part of the variance of this, and that's kind of what makes it fun in a way also.
Well, I'm going to try and finish bet a little better than my fifth in last week's millionaire maker. So we'll see if I can do that. And Sheets, we'll see if you can top your win from last night. Anything else you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
No, sounds good.
Guys, have a great weekend. Take care. Win a bunch of money. We'll see you on the leaderboards. For Sheets, I'm BobbyFi. We are out of here.